Eisenhower was invoked, and it was said that he would be laughed out of the Republican Party if he articulated some of his views. I think we should be bearing in mind that that just happened the other day, in effect. You had Ron Paul at the Republican debate articulate a very compelling critique of American empire, and he was in effect booed, not quite laughed, but booed in the hall and in the subsequent commentary, certainly from the right, and I think in large part from the mainstream. And I think that there is a meaningful opportunity here. I think that we're all sort of coming from one end of the political spectrum, but I think we should be mindful that there are people who, at least, historically are coming from another side of the political spectrum who can be made common cause with. I've outlined this at a webpage called votepact.org, where I suppose that, could an electoral solution be made where people who feel entrapped by the Democratic Party and others who feel, in effect, entrapped by the Republican Party, who know and trust each other, team up because they trust each other and both vote for a third party that is compelling on those issues that are agreed on by, say, Dennis Kucinich on the one hand and Ron Paul on the other. Ending empire, ending the police state, ending the Wall Street bailouts, ending the corporate trade deals. There's a whole host of issues, contrary to the media mantra, that are actually agreed upon. And I'd like to suppose that we can be mindful of that in our organizing, and I might put that question to President Eisenhower when he speaks. Thank you.
Thank you. It's certainly true that there's overlap between the libertarian right and the anti-war left. And the reason that I said that the St. Petersburg Times said that we had 148 countries we had troops in was because Ron Paul claimed we had 130, and all of their readers threw a fit and said, how can that possibly be true? And they did their, check is it false or true little thing, and found that it was actually 148. And so there isn't anybody really on the left talking about that, whether getting it wrong or right. So that's very useful from someone who I disagree with on most stuff. So anybody else, or shall we move on to the night's performance? Please come up.
Good evening, I'm Judith Kahn. I'm a lifelong educator, started at the New School for Social Research in New York City, NYU, New York University, UVA here in Charlottesville, and FEI, the Federal Executive Institute, where I taught leadership development. I'm coming up to say I'm very, very happy to be here and that all of us are here and that this program is happening. My concern is, and I pose a question through it, when I look out at who is sitting in the pews, I think most of us were around when Eisenhower made his speech. I see a few younger faces, and I am thrilled that you are here. I want to know how we can move this into the younger generations so that we would have this haven, which is the name of this church, which does work that we should all be proud of. How we could fill these pews with younger faces and move this message to where it needs to go, in addition to all of us who are here. Thank you.
I'm going to defer to our experts who have that topic assigned to them for Sunday, but at least part of the answer is that young people will be in the streets of Washington on October 6th. They are a big part of October2011.org. They're a big part of a lot of activities, unlike conferences and lectures. And a big part of it is merging the concerns of the peace movement with other movements, including the environmental movement, which young people are, in a bigger way, a part of. And because the number one everything, the number one employer, the number one drainer of our wallets, but the number one consumer of oil and destroyer of the natural environment that we've got is the U.S. military. And because the environment is going to be destroyed by these wars, it's an easy fit, as well as the fact that for a fraction of what we spend on the military every year, we could have clean energy across the country. If you're not, you can't have a movement for something without joining the movement against the place where all the money's going, right? And so there's an easy fit, and it is happening, but it's happening at the grassroots level. It's not happening at the leadership organizational level. So let's take one or two more, and then move on to the performance.
John Judge, I'm here from Washington, D.C., longtime counter-recruitment and anti-militarism activist. I just wanted to point out that the very first draft that Eisenhower did said the military-industrial intelligence complex. And that's been forgotten, but we now know that 85% of all spending on intelligence is not on the CIA, it's on the military. And if you go a little further, you'll find out that the CIA is a think tank and comes up with an idea, but they go to the DIA and the ONI and the other branches of military intelligence, which are much older and much larger and have 10 times the employees of the CIA and the FBI combined, to get anything done. And you can find 600 books about the CIA. Try to find 5 about the DIA.
At the risk of informing all of those agencies, I'm going to point out that that was John Judge, who's a very well-informed person on this subject, who used to be a staff person for a congresswoman named Cynthia McKinney, who was a great opponent of the military-industrial complex. And I would just add that the CIA is also something else now. It is also an agency that fights wars using drones. And that is an extremely dangerous development.